Should have an interesting week, an interesting day.
I'll tell you this. We've been talking about the cybersecurity stocks, and they've pulled back now, where they're definitely in a buying area.
Yeah,
We gave some good calls on not getting long up there,
right, right.
and now we're looking. I really like considering these today. It's just a question of how they open and what goes on with the rest of the market today.
Right, exactly. And what the market does and how much panic we have, how much, and we're opening at interesting levels too in the spiders. Is it 8 o'clock? Oh, yeah, it is 8 o'clock. So we closed at that, once again, we closed at 210 Friday. And
Amazing,
now,
isn't it? Literally.
yeah, totally. That has been such a pivot point. And then last night, overnight, we got down to that 207.50. I think it spiked, went through by like 9 cents or something like that. But we did get down to that 207.50. Now we're up at 208. But I actually not sure I like it. Now, support, there is a lot of support down at 205. Oh, and this is actually really interesting because now this will go back to Friday when we didn't have all this news out yet. And remember when the resistance was there was one at 212.50 and then up at 215. It looks like people rolled it all down to 211.50. So now we have resistance at 211.50. So they've actually rolled down. I mean, if you could actually see the call and put ratio, it was really totally amazing that everybody did that. But now, so that's what I'm seeing. What about you?
No, I agree. I actually feel like the market was trading very well right up into here. This one green day, I'm telling you, this one day just messed everything up for me as far as like reading the flow, because we were in a really nice trade down 3 days, trade up 2 days, trade down 3 days, and we're following through very nicely, even though it's obviously on news right now. But look, I felt, actually both of us, we've been talking about it probably about a month and a half right now, that it was interesting. There was clearly a lot more stocks that were better opportunities to be bidding, but it absolutely looked like the market was rolling over. The problem I've been having is, even you can see it on this chart, it's just not like a really clear 207.50, because
Right.
there's wicks down here, and, you're not really sure where the level is. And I agree, the 205 level, 204.50, 205, definitely a lot more price action jammed up over here. Um, Look, I've felt for a while the distribution days were just really obvious. We were starting to see much bigger days on heavier volume down days. The up days were pretty much just like 73 million shares in the spiders, practically not even trading really with all the electronic trading that goes on right now. We see a difference between 73 million shares on up days and 150 on down days. That's not a little bit of difference. That's a lot
Right.
of extra shares trading on the downside. Um, I think I wrote about it a little bit this morning. You have to be careful with anytime news this significant comes out. Obviously the chart levels are not so cut and dry anymore at that point. You're literally trading what's coming in now. Again, even now, coming across Twitter or whatever it happens to be, where somebody's trying to report news as fast as possible. I would be a little bit more inclined to wait a little bit this morning, as opposed to jumping in right away. Unless you got some stocks like William had pointed here about buying some assets at distressed levels. If you got some stocks that have already pulled back prior to this happening, again, I'll just use the example here of FEYE. I love looking to bid this somewhere today. It's just a question of, you have to be careful sometimes where you don't expect gap and goes. But if we end up getting a gap this morning, today is a really good day to use that hourly chart reset that I've been mentioning since we all got started. It's very common for traders to want to be looking for a spot to bid in this case, just for argument's sake. But the market continues to slide down, and you keep nibbling, which is not really the wrong play. It's just that the nibbles never come back. So I would be looking to, at the bottom of every hour today, reset the clock to say, okay, previous hour was red, second hour part of 10:40, we started to trade back above the open of that hourly candle, and then I'd start to look for bid some of the stocks that I want it to be long. So I would be leaning very heavy on the hourly chart today to reset my bullish or bearish conviction.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's really a great warning.
Well, I've been caught in it. I mean, there's, you reach a fine line between, no, these stocks are definitely long, but for whatever reason, I think I want to say it was not this January, but the previous January, in the spiders. And I'll pull it up just to give you an example because it's kind of relevant. Um, I want to say it was here. Yeah, definitely here. The market was like really strong, and you can even see it by the probably like 5 or 6 or 7 weeks. There was one day in there that the market was down like 300 points or something like that. And because the market was so strong the prior couple of months to that, there really weren't that many days that didn't recover midday. And it was just one day that there was a bath that nothing came back. And I actually was trading in my friend's office at that time, and I know a lot of traders got really hit that day because they did not have any intraday confirmation that their longer term bias was reestablishing itself. And quite honestly, I know a lot of traders that got shut down early that day, like 11 o'clock, hit their stop losses and whatnot because they were bidding because that was what was going on pretty much every day and week prior to that. But this, like I said, it was one 300-point day to the downside that did not recover, and it ruined a lot of people's months in that one day because it didn't come back. So I think we're setting up to have one of those kind of days, and maybe possibly even the kind of week, because there's a lot of activities going to get in before, on a 4-day week, pretty big news. So again, that's just from my own experience. When something this significant is happening, make sure the intraday bias is confirming that your longer term bias. I'm not saying not to trade normally. All I'm saying is to pick a reference point that tells you, okay, intraday is now confirming my pre-market long or short idea. And I had an email conversation this morning about the opening range, and essentially you can either use the opening price to do that. However, if the stock opens, let's say it opens flat and then pushes down and goes down for the first hour, you have a lot of price action you have to recover before you want to get long. You can definitely use it, but it could take a while if you have a first good push down off the opening. But that's why then you could either switch to the first 15-minute candle, the most recent 15-minute candle, whether or not it's trading above or below that level, or the one I was just saying we could reset at the top of the bottom of every hour. And to me is one of the most significant ones. And even that's even a trading strategy, believe it or not, Mary. And
Yeah, I am.
literally
You watch the volume on that though too, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely,
So
absolutely.
find the volume when you're doing that. But no, that's actually a very successful trading strategy for many.
Yeah, I think a lot of people make things too difficult because there's so many other indicators and tools and all of that kind of stuff. But as long as you're going into the day knowing you're only day trading, for argument's sake, the most significant reference points are today's high and low, yesterday's high and low, the opening price, that kind of stuff, because that's where you're trading now. That's the window you're trading now. And I've done it myself, and I don't know if you have as well, but you have these longer term bias, especially when the market's not going down. Even just take a look at this 5-week window here in the SPDR, actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks in a row where it closed above the open. You can get to the point where you start to get angry. You're like, I don't understand why I'm not making more. The market's not going down. Every time we pull in, it's an aggressive bid. And it only takes one day, one trade for that not to come back. And you have that pig-headed bias in your head that, no, I'm right, the market's wrong. Let me tell you something. I've seen historic blow-ups because of people saying, no, it's worked every other time. It's just going to work now. And having some intraday reference point is very, very important. And look, I mean, it's easy to use moving averages, but moving averages lag. If you're trading off a 5-minute chart, you're talking about if you use a 20-period moving average, that's 100 minutes ago. Nothing wrong with them, but you got to keep them in perspective.
Sure.
Let me see, Ken. By resetting, you mean treat the most recent bar. Yeah, Ken, that's exactly what I mean. But let's actually take it a step further. Let's say, for argument's sake, you want to be long a stock coming into the day, and you have the hourly candle from 9. Now, again, this is something very important to note as well. Each software is different how it resets the hourly candle. Some softwares reset it at the top of the hour. So in other words, 9:30 to 10:30 will be technically what they have as their first hourly candle, and then the rest of the hours ended, obviously ending at 4 o'clock. Some softwares use the actual hour from 9:30 to 10:30. So you have to be careful or just be very aware of which your software does. An easy way to get around that, though, is just use 30-minute candles. Just be aware of, if it's 9:30, okay, now the next, obviously I'm looking at the two 30-minute candles. But yeah, so let's say, for argument's sake, you want to be long today. Again, just using for an example, based on whatever long-term setup you're using, you would literally reset the clock every hour that needs to be greened before you look for any type of entry. So if you whether you're using a 5-minute inside candle, whether you're using a swing low, whether you're using a flag or whatever it happens to be, you won't even look for an entry unless that hourly candle is in sync with your longer time frame. And then to actually make that a stronger probability, then you could add, are we trading above the opening price? So now you have longer term buys coming into the day that you want to be long. Now you're trading above the opening price, which is now today's order flow is in sync with the longer term order flow. And then you're actually resetting at the bottom of every hour to make sure that every hour is in sync with those other two things. So let's just say, for argument's sake, you're trading, you're from 9:30 to 11:30, you have 2 strong hours, but then from 11:30 to 12:30 and 12:30 to 1:30, those candles are red or dojis or mixed, whatever it happens to be. That's literally telling you, not now. Then usually when the volume picks up 1:30, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, if it's a real trend, it'll establish itself again. And let me put it this way: if you haven't noticed yet, I'm really, really big on minimizing risk, and every single thing that I like, stories like this and everything I talk about, is because I've lost money not knowing these things when I first started trading. And something as simple as, even just as simple as trading, keeping your trades to above the opening price. That's like if I was trading new traders tomorrow, I'd probably look, let's decide if we want to be long, and then let's make sure that today's buying or selling is in sync with that. We're not going to do anything unless it is. Just something as simple as that. And then when you add the hourly candle, you're like, wow, this is pretty cool. Every time, the terminology that Marion's brought up a few times is time frame continuity. It becomes a really, really easy way to have conviction, because you're never fighting what's going on. You're never predicting when price action is going to stop moving in one direction or the other. Resetting that hourly candle is a really powerful way, especially when you combine it with the opening price and your longer term bias. And I think it's important for today because we have significant stuff happening today.
Yeah, I was actually going to say that, particularly when we have like a gap up or a gap down, I think it makes it even more a better way to trade, because you're not trading off of the last bar because it's so far away.
Yeah, that could actually end up being the problem, man, because sometimes the opening 15-minute window could be this giant window. And you're like, well, how do I have a reference point? Well, we just gave you one,
Exactly.
So that's the thing with the spiders. I even wrote on Friday, I'm like, I don't have a clear feel for like over here. But down here, a little bit lower, definitely. But we still haven't broken the long-term uptrend. Well, actually, today we might, just based on this. But it's going to be interesting to see. I would be more inclined to be leaning that the longer-term uptrend is not going to give it up that easy. But we'll see. We'll see. We got housing numbers today. Some news on Apple today. Intel continued to roll over on Friday, and I think it got a downgrade today, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Pacific Crest.
Okay. It's something interesting. I think we had mentioned it a couple of times about when you do your game planning. I think everybody needs to make sure that they do it on a regular schedule, give it a little time to breathe, and then go back and look at it. Sometimes if we do it at the last minute, you tend to overlook some things that you might not see. So it's a very good idea to maybe do it the day before if it's possible. maybe 7 or 8 o'clock at night, and then review it in the morning, or look for new ideas. Sometimes when you're just doing it at 7 o'clock in the morning and you take that right into the open, it can get sloppy is a strong word for it, but sometimes you need to step away from your screen and come back and look at it with fresh eyes to make sure that you actually are setting up some of the best ideas that you have.
I agree. It gets like clouded. Your bias gets clouded, I think. But if you do it the night before and come back, I see things that I didn't see the night before. But then I'm a morning person, so I didn't know if it was that or.
Yeah, no, I think you need a little time to disconnect. I'm a morning person myself as well, but I equate it sometimes to like reading a book. Where you ever get to the point where like you forgot what you just read in the last paragraph.
Right, or you're not even reading it; you're just looking at the word.
Right, exactly. So I think coming back, if it's possible, I know everybody's got different responsibilities and whatnot, but if it's possible to at least start or get a good portion of your scanning or screening done the day before, or even a couple hours before, quite honestly, but that's really not that possible with the market opening at 9:30. But it is good to get away and come back with a fresh set of eyes. It's just a better way of seeing things more clearly because it's a new set of eyes, almost like you're handing it to somebody else to ask, okay, what do you think about these ideas?
Right.
So Intel, actually interesting. Obviously we've been watching it since it collapsed over here. There really wasn't a strong bias. You can see here we're kind of in a trading range here, but now we broke this. Look how clear that head and shoulders top is. I mean, that's. Yeah. Similar to Triple M, but that actually did not break through on Friday. Held support pretty well, actually, and led to an inside day. MU had news this morning. I don't know if it was earnings.
It had another downgrade.
Another downgrade, okay.
Yeah. But Friday it had quite a few downgrades.
One thing I'm noticing that we've been speaking about a little bit as well is Walmart. To me, Walmart's showing an increase in volume to what it normally does, and now we got a double bottom inside day, and the day the market was down. I would definitely keep an eye on Walmart for a little bit of a consolidation here, and then get back above that 73.50 level. I want to keep track of that because after 73.50, then we're heading back up to 79, which is kind of similar to what's going on in BABA right now. We had that double bottom, and we're like, all right, 2 inside candles in a row, double bottom. We're either looking from 85 to 80, or we go right back into that tighter range and do nothing. And we ended up getting a gap down and a nice clean trend in BABA on Friday.
You know what? I think William MU is going to try to hold that 19 support, whether it can or not. I would watch it, but that's clearly support there from. Actually, I thought 20 was a support, but 19 seems to be holding here.
Yeah, it looked like 20 is definitely a little more obvious. I agree there. Maybe even above it.
Oh, yeah. That whole sector is not in great favor, so I'd be really careful about trying to bottom feed in that. SanDisk is also there. Remember when the semiconductors were really strong? Now this is a different type of semiconductor, but none of them are real strong right now. Look at SanDisk. We've been waiting for it to break there.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's actually making the moves we've been anticipating, but they're all happening in gaps.
Yeah.
It's trading from 63.50 to 62, but it's on the opening, and you can't even really sink your teeth in there. I'm not sure I see 19. Is 19 really the exact level there?
Is 19? Let me look. Hold on. Let me see what I have down here.
And that's a monster move too. That's an interesting thing there too. I mean, I don't know if I'd be waiting for a support level to hold after stock just fell $5.50 in one day.
It's just not a sector I would even want to be in right now. It's going to have to have a longer term support than just one day too. It's not something that I'd just stay away from that.
I agree. I mean, I could definitely understand. William, was it William that I said before? To buy assets at distressed levels. Okay, that's the point that I want to bring up there. You want to be buying good assets at distressed levels. There's a monster difference between the two. Am I overstating that, Mary?
No, I don't think so. Particularly when you understand what MU and SanDisk does. Their claim to fame is the DRAM, and what have we seen in computers? And they're only in that DRAM memory is only in PC computers. It's not in your iPhone or your laptop. Not laptop. It's not in your tablet. And the PC market is slowly drifting down. So you're going to have support in the PC market before these will ever see any kind of support in them. So for that reason alone, I'd stay away from them.
Yep. Yeah. William, your thought process.
Look at Qualcomm. Remember, we called that out as a short. I don't like that either.
Your concept is correct, William, but there has to be a part of that says buying good assets at distressed prices, not just distressed stocks. There's a big difference.
Exactly.
Yeah, IBM filled that gap and really hasn't recovered, and it actually looks very similar to what Baba chart looks like now. We're right back at this support level here. See if we trade back into that range. I would be more inclined to be shorting the stock at this point. It's really just a question of where you believe the support is. Is it here at this 165 level, pretty much where it is right now? And is it worth shorting into that support? You can see it's pretty clear right there. I'd be more inclined to let it get through there and then maybe look at this 160 level down there.
Yeah, once it broke there.
Yeah. Which it could be opening below that today. We might get a opening below that, bounce back up into support, which will be resistance at that point to look for a good sell short.
Yeah, my bias is more in a lot of this stuff to look for a bounce to sell it again, to sell.
Yes. Yeah, I agree.
Rather than to buy it.
It was interesting. I didn't have any problem finding stocks on both sides of the market today. It's really just a question of what's going on with the news. I mean, it seems like something's imminent. I mean, I told you I'm not a fundamental person at all, but it seems like something's imminent right now.
Right.
Actually, very, very funny story. Well, I don't know if it's funny story. So we'll tend to keep everything, lighthearted here. But one of my friends who runs a prop trading firm, he was with his girlfriend last night, and they were talking about. He said the futures were down 30-something handles, I think, or something like that. He said, and she said, "Is that because of the gay thing with the announcement last week?" She was so clueless. She thought the market was affected because of.
Oh my God!
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's funny, but it's not funny.
Wow, that's a little scary.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, keep her away from the market.
Right. I could actually find a bunch of shorts. Your Boeing, if it looks like it's pulling back down there, and if it gets to the, back down to that 140.
Yeah, it's interesting about that. There was so much positive news coming out of that. That's another reason why we should, unless you really have a clue, you shouldn't really be interpreting news stories, because for all intents and purposes, they get billions of dollars of contracts, and It's going down. And actually, I actually typed in a little bit about Apple this morning as well too. We've had 2.5 days of hard selling since Icon's tweet.
Right.
It had that initial bounce higher. People have to recognize the fact he's not trading. If you're going to trade off of something like that, recognize where the source is coming from. And Carl Icahn's not trading Apple, and he was very, very clear to say it was a couple of years out. But look, Apple's got a very, very different business. I actually had a friend of mine who just got the Apple Watch, and it looks weird. I mean, it takes up like almost his fist.
Wow.
Yeah, I could never see myself having one of those. Nike, good call last week, Marion. Got some follow through. It's one thing to obviously to catch the gap, but we got nice follow through.
Yeah. And then Under Armour is holding up here.
We closed above the resistance we've been watching.
Right.
I would obviously think it's going to open a little bit lower tomorrow with the market being dragged down, but I would definitely have an alarm set for 86.
It's actually trading at 85.75 pre-market.
Well, that's pretty healthy compared to everything else right now.
Yeah. And then let's see, finish line, FINL, in this sector. It closed a little on the weak side there.
Oh, that's interesting. A monster reversal on Thursday,
Right.
and then a huge, well, huge is relative, but a huge gap in the opposite direction on Friday on monster volume.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Wow.
Yeah, I thought it was too. It's in that same sector. And Foot Locker. I think.
Strong close, good volume. Interesting.
Yeah, so that there's a sector that is holding up. The ag sector is kind of funny. Well, Monsanto is hated by everybody because of their GMO. And it broke the neckline the other day, which I think we pointed out. And then Friday it had a nice, it broke that big gap, that big bar down, and even gave us some more follow through on it.
Little bit of supporter in the 104 area, but after that is 94.
Yeah, so I would keep this one on watch, as opposed to CF, which is my favorite in that sector, which is showing relative strength in the sector.
What a difference in the charts. Wow.
Yeah.
We are starting to wick out on the weekly, though, here. You see that?
Yeah, exactly. Look at how sloppy that looks up there.
Yep. 64.50 can't get through. It keeps coming back in.
So this could get a nice pullback, which would be great.
Maybe around 61.50 area. 59 looks like it's too deep, but maybe 62. EXAS. Well, that's a mouth. That's hard to say. Mm-hmm. That's actually a pretty good call. Got above resistance. Obviously, big wick last week, but pretty clean breakout. The only thing you don't like, obviously, is this big reversal day on the highest volume you've seen in about 10 days. As long as it stays above this 29, actually, it looks pretty good. Is that the level 29?
Yeah, looks like it. I don't know. It's hard for me to see.
Yeah. I like that one. That's a good call. Clean uptrend, clean 52-week breakout. Just a question of whether it stays above 29. I like that one. Nice job, William.
You've been calling out Yoku short, right?
Bunch of inside days in a row there. We were looking for some sort of increase in volatility.
Well, I guess that's maybe what it was.
Oh, Kramer had the FN. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, Kramer can move stocks. There was someone who was someplace else where I was trading. They only traded Kramer stocks.
Yeah, I've seen that before.
Yeah, like scalping Kramer stocks. It's amazing how he can get stocks to move.
I used to have new traders in my office. So, oh, he comes on at 7 o'clock. How do I trade it? I'm like, you don't. I'm not letting you trade at 7 o'clock at night.
Coors on the short side.
Finally broke support.
Yeah. Win on the short side.
Core's next level's 40, looks like.
Yeah.
Win's been a good short sale for 2 months.
Mm-hmm. Another casino, MPEL, M-P-E-L.
Right at support. Great volume on that breakdown, though.
Yeah. Coles. These are ones you called out. Remember? Doesn't that look like that could?
Yep. I was expecting it to happen on Friday with the way the market pushed down and a really solid trend day on Thursday. It was kind of a dud there.
There's some things that just didn't move on Friday. Green Mountain on the short side.
Sina actually gap down and followed through. This was one of my best longs heading into last week, and it just melted and then finally fell off the cliff there.
Wow.
This is a little bit different than what we were looking at before in MU to buy. I see this is setting up, I think, better to buy a stock that gets pushed down a little bit. It's been pretty strong. I mean, obviously 32 to 61 in a month and a half. This would be more one that I'd be looking to buy as a stock that's quote unquote distressed or pulled back, or however we want to word it.
Well, it's also a good stock. I mean, it's a stock you wouldn't mind owning.
Right, exactly.
Sector. CG.
Yeah, I had CAG on my list today too. It actually held up very, very well. Nice hammer on a weekday in the market, closed strong. EA, I did not have that one. Looks good too. Consolidation going sideways. You always get to tell eyeball a stock real quick, and just the fact that it doesn't pull back is actually showing relative strength, even though it's not going any higher. Facebook. Are we ready to get into Facebook again?
Mm-hmm.
I guess the question is a $2 pullback enough? That's the question. Certainly want to keep an eye on it. I mean, very close to 100 like this. I mean, $10 away for $12 away. Be very interesting to see if it can make its way up there. It's a very well run company right now.
Yeah, it really is, as opposed to Twitter,
which is a mess.
It still has no volume.
I can't even tell you the amount of people that are periscoping now. There's a good chance I'm going to start this week.
Wow. Yeah, it really is amazing. But the news will have to get out. You don't see it. It's not newsy yet.
Yeah, well, there's competition right now between Periscope and a company called Meerkat, and everybody's trying to assess which one is going to ultimately end up being the winner. But it seems like there's a lot more celebrities using Periscope. I mean, obviously, there's always room for 1 and 1A, but
right. And who owns Meerkat? Is it a private company?
I'm not sure. But Periscope, you see Marcus Lemonis on it all the time. Damon John, Bubba Watson seems to be a Periscope maniac right now.
Oh wow!
He's literally He's periscoping from the golf course.
Oh my god!
Oh, and actually Roger Federer last week as well.
Wow!
He was actually doing a walk around of Roland Garros on Periscope.
Oh my gosh, that's insane!
Yeah, could you imagine like you sitting all of a sudden like you could just like say hi to Roger Federer? Well, So it's interesting. It's definitely interesting. Deere's a good one too. Actually, I had that on my list as well. Pretty clean breakout.
Yeah, that was
nice slow grinding uptrend. What's interesting is a lot of these stocks that we've been watching, keep it on the radar. Almost all of them broke through. I mean, I can't think of that many of them other than maybe Macy's, which just has a hard time here. Did this get a downgrade as well today?
We got a downgrade this morning.
Okay, yeah. So this was one of the few ones that did not get up there and have a convincing move through there. But Wells Fargo, Capital One, quite a few of them actually did. Speaking of that, maybe Goldman Sachs. Finally, a nice little flag to bid into. Obviously, we're going to open lower here, inside candle there. A lot of these stocks that are in really solid uptrends, I'd be looking hard today to wait for them to reset and look to find a spot to bid.
Okay, Goldman Sachs is trading down at 210 right now, or 209.80. So it has pulled back significantly, in the pre-market hours.
Interesting.
John, Deere also had earnings, so we have to be careful because that was news. Let that, play itself out first before you jump into it.
Been a while since that stock's had a $3 trend day.
Yeah, really. Even on earnings, they don't even have that usually.
GD actually is pretty good. We had this, again, drawn from probably, I think, 2 weeks ago, if I'm not mistaken. Big volume on a day that did not get through resistance, though. That's interesting.
Yum on the long side. Remember we were waiting for it? It had a nice day on Friday. It's still in that range, but that's
That's
what
got
you
two
want.
dollars if it could finally get out of there.
Right. Right, but that's what you want. You want it to get some pent up energy in it so that when it does go up, you have a nice move.
Hmm. I would wait for this to get through this area up here. I don't. It doesn't look like there's enough room to go to justify the trade here. If I'm not mistaken, this one spreads a little bit as well. What are your thoughts on a stock that does something like this, Marion, where has a big move to the upside, consolidates, have a big move to the downside, then another consolidation, another big move to the upside? I
You know
would
what?
tend to stay away from that.
It's a newsy stock. Those are what all those bars are. So I don't play this stock because it can kill you overnight if you hold it. You know, if it on the trend days, it has nice trend, but you got to get out before the end of the day. If you want to play it, I would not say this is a long term because obviously it's on an uptrend still, but I don't play with it because it can kill you.
I agree. And it's an interesting thing. Everybody's always got to get to the point. Maybe Ken could trade it, or maybe he hasn't. Maybe it just came up in a scan. But you always got to get to the point where there's certain characteristics of a stock that you get to the point where you're like, that's not for me, or wow, I could really sink my teeth into that one. So did Facebook pull back enough for us, Mary? What do you think?
Let me see. Let me look at that again. I would like to see. Let's see. If we could get down, see where it broke, see where resistance was before, up here at like the 85.50 level. Where is that?
Yeah,
Or maybe
basically right here. Right
I'd rather get down a little further and look at how far above the 20-day moving average it is.
That's kind of what I was implying.
All right, I think I'd rather have it pull back a little more.
Yeah, I think that the hammer on Friday is a little deceiving. It looks, because it looks like it came back $1 quickly, which would set up another buy. But I agree. I think it was an impressive move for 4 days. I would prefer to see it pull back. I don't know if it's going to pull back all the way to the 85 level, but even if it went sideways and let the moving averages catch up a little bit.
Exactly. I mean, when I say 85, that's like where I would like to see it. It rarely ever goes where I want to see it.
Yep. I have actually a very important question. Robin, how was your weekend? She thinks she can hide. What about the FEYE? To me, this is a little bit better pullback.
Yeah, I agree. And William, CHK got an incredible upgrade this morning. Like, okay, it's down enough. And then they gave it a $13 price target. So that's why it's going to be. Although I would not be buying it down here.
I agree.
But I'm just not a bottom feeder either, because too often someone will give it an upgrade like this and it looks great and then it just falls apart again.
Yeah, I don't see any reason to be a buyer there unless you know you are bottom fishing.
Yeah.
If that's your plan.
Which one did you just ask me about?
FEYE, I think we said a little better on the pullback.
I'm watching all of these to see where to get back in them at some point.
I love strong stocks that have a day like this.
Right.
Especially after a few days, to me, and good volume to capitulation, maybe the end cleanup print of this pullback here. I mean, $7 basically, give or take a few cents, and a close near the lows. To me, this is setting up as one of my A trades, where close near the lows, strong stock, right at or near yesterday's low, or even if we open lower and trade higher, yesterday's low would be a very significant reference point for me. You can get a good trend day out of this today to the upside if it catches a bid.
Right. Right now it's trading at 47.25, which would be a nice level.
Yep, I agree.
Around the 47 level.
And what's interesting is like this there are a couple of gaps in here, but at least it's a pullback. Like Goldman Sachs is a little annoying here, even during this entire move up from 198 to 218, a $20 move, and there really wasn't any place you could be like, wow, I can really, I definitely want to bid into this thing right now.
Right, exactly. What was that? Oh, yay, Robin's weekend was great. I had a great weekend too. Did everybody have a good weekend?
We have to ask everybody. We have a community here. We're a family.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of stocks that had a pretty good week closes that were already weak heading into that. Looking for some follow-through today. ADSK broke this longer-term uptrend. I know somebody had brought this up last week, and pretty solid couple of days to the downside. Baba, we mentioned, I would actually be looking for some follow. Actually, Baba, you could trade until it hits 80. No reason not to.
Yeah, I agree.
RRC, clean little flag here.
Barron's had a positive news article on RRC this weekend.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, just to.
What else? CCL actually still holding up strong up here. Again, starting to wick out a little bit, but holding above the gap now 4 days.
Yeah.
Qualcomm, mentioned it a few times. 62 is the next level, so you have another $2 depending on where it broke out, depending on where it opens today.
Right.
Let's see what else on bids on pullback. Citrix, CTXS. Maybe another day. Today might be good. Get it down around the 70 area where it gapped and held. The only downside to that is the obvious 72 resistance. So if you get it down lower here, you know what the ceiling is.
Right.
Hit this level twice and started wicking. Adobe, nice breakout. Maybe a little bit more of a pullback. 1 day, not enough. Cree gap down on Thursday. Almost an inside day on Friday. It's got room to go. I'd be looking for some follow through there as well. G-Pro. We haven't talked about G-Pro in a while.
Oh, broke that.
Yeah.
Wow, it had a weekday on Friday.
Yep. I don't like the fact that it keeps making lower highs now. It's clearly not being supported at all here. It's making lower lows, lower highs each week now.
And look at the volume on that pullback. I don't like to see that either.
Thought it was pretty aggressive when it gapped up here, held the gap, and started to push up. I thought we were going to get a nice clean flag for another push higher and start to test the 72 level, but as of right now, nothing. I was actually in Best Buy yesterday. This is not cheap, this stuff. I wasn't in there to buy it. I just happened to walk by the aisle.
Yeah.
The camera itself is expensive, but all of the necessary accessories are ridiculous, like $60 clamps and.
Right.
So I don't really have a clean read on G Pro right now. I don't see anything other than it's selling right now, and I wouldn't really be selling short because it's above most areas that you would say, all right, still along. I see it as kind of a do nothing right now. What about you, Mary?
No, I agree. I'm trying to find any bias at all. No, there's nothing.
Yeah, the only thing I see right now with consistency is we keep making lower highs and we keep making lower lows. So that being the case, we don't want to sell it short, but it's not showing us it's a bid right now. So I would tend to stay away from that right now.
Yep, I agree.
Very similar to the other chart we were talking about before with these wild swings in both directions. Look, can you justify a momentum trade to the downside as a sell short? Sure.
Yeah.
Can you look at the stock and say buyers or sellers are definitely in charge of this stock with consistency? No. No. Again, if we're trading in the same room together, I would say, look, just recognize it for what it is. It's a momentum trade, and as long as you think the momentum to the downside is still valid, it would be a quick trade, but it would not be near the top of my list. Nice breakdown at CSIQ. No longer term trend. You'd obviously just trading off this most recent price action when it broke down here, with the moving averages now down, both of them pointing down. Plenty of room to go. But again, there's no bias from an institutional perspective. Again, we could literally draw it right in the middle. However you want to draw that.
Yeah.
Right in the middle. That's about as neutral as it gets. Again, you did have a good day on Friday as far as price action and volume. Could you justify a sell short? Yes, as long as you qualify it as it does not have longer-term institutional sponsorship in this case. TRN coming into support. Maybe if it breaks the 27 support down here. Looks like 24 is the next level. $38 and $34 in Yahoo. This company could just never recover, huh?
Yeah, no, they need to be innovative. They just can't keep up with something that's always like they're treading water.
It's not like they don't have the traffic. I mean,
Right.
it's the number one destination, I think, for most people's homepages.
Right, and they can't monetize that.
They have to do something. Well, I mean, obviously it's after the fact, but I mean, everybody hits the homepage where all their news and everything along those lines. I mean, they probably have more homepage traffic than Google. I mean, Google people go for search. I mean, it's interesting. Is it one of those that's too big to change? I mean,
right, and they just don't know how to. I don't know. And Google got like a very negative article that's making the rounds through all like Business Wire and PR Wire and Reuters that they're actually doing their consumers a disservice by the way they have their search set up. Really negative.
What was the actual crux of the article? That sounds like a really pretty strong statement.
They're saying that because of the way their search is set up, they're doing a disservice to everybody. You're not getting the best coming up on the first page. You're getting who paid them. It's here. These are the top searches for who paid Google. So what you're looking for, you might not find on till page 35.
Holy mackerel.
Yeah.
I will tell you this from a marketing perspective, just like to add a little juice to the Facebook idea. Virtually every big internet marketer right now is using Facebook like crazy. So their ad revenue is going through the roof right now from what I said. Just keeping a pulse on it, it's gigantic. Everybody is there right now. The level of specificity that you can get to, and actually here's a big reason for it as well. Obviously Facebook, Google with pay-per-click, you're just seeing the text ad. Most of the advertisements that are on Facebook, you see either in your actual news feed or on the right-hand side for whatever interest you normally click on. They all have pictures, which make them a lot more attractive to attract attention to click on. So between the news we had last week about Facebook videos and how many more are being streamed, as well as what I'm basically seeing and experiencing myself with Facebook advertising, Facebook's in a really good position right now.
Google right now is trading down at that 525 level, which would be really interesting for it to hold or break through there.
That's the first negative story like that I've heard.
Yeah.
On their practices.
Well.
WMB actually had as a pullback, obviously a giant gap up and pull back a little bit, but it's got to get back above the 60 level. But this is, I would consider bidding into this on the pullback here.
Oh,
it's held 5 days now. It's held. DD is one on the watch list. It's actually opening lower into support. If it clears this support level, it's got some room to go down to 60. By the way, I don't know if anybody's a Mets fan like I am, but what a game yesterday. Anybody catch it?
My son's a crazy Mets fan.
Oh my God, the guy who pitched is from Long Island. He had like 150 people there. His grandfather is all over the internet with how crazy he was going at the game.
Oh, that's so cute.
Yeah, the guy actually did something that nobody's done in the history of baseball.
Wow, what did he do?
It was the first game he ever pitched, and he had 4 RBIs, which is unheard of for a pitcher. So he won the game, drove in 4 runs. I think he went 3 for 3 or 3 for 4. It was just amazing. If you like, Steve Matt's grandfather, that's all you have to do, and you'll see like memes all over the place of his grandfather going crazy. It was so awesome. Some other stocks that we've been watching, AET, a lot of volume on the gap higher. Obviously, the sector, healthcare has been in the news for a while. Pretty decent reversal. I would wait for this to pull back a little bit more. CMCSA, I think you had brought this up last week, Marion. Finally cleared the level, getting some wicks up there, but I like how it's above the level. The week was actually stronger than Friday's close. Just keep an eye on this one to remain above that level. Lulu popped up in my volume scan again. Definitely something to keep an eye on above this short term, last couple of months.
Yeah, what came out on Friday afternoon is some Canadian firm is going head to head with them with the same. I guess they can't have a patent on a certain fabric they have, so they're going head to head, and they're like half the price. So they said that's what happened on Friday with Lulu. Well, I don't know if that's going to find more support in the market and then hit Lulu with it.
I guess it really depends on whether or not you see Lulu as a necessary workout gear or you see it as a fashion statement.
You know what? I think it started out as workout gear, and then it quickly morphed into a fashion statement where people were wearing them to the grocery store and out to pick up the kids. They weren't just wearing it.
That's why I had mentioned that, because when I lived before I moved down to Florida, I was on the Upper West Side, and there was this gigantic Lululemon store right next to Brooks Brothers. Very conveniently placed right next to there. So that, in my mind, if somebody cuts them by 50%, I'm not even sure they're competing in the same area.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know who their customer base is. I actually haven't really looked that deeply into Lulu. I think it's insanely overpriced.
Let's see, EXPE.
Oh, nice.
Very clean chart.
Yeah.
Good call, Ken. Nice. Ken, you might be in the running for 2 months in a row to win the gold star. I don't know. We're close. Scott's right behind you, but I think it's pretty close.
I
like that one. Pretty clear. 114 is the next level. Depends on where it opens today. So, Marion, we're getting close to 9 o'clock. What's your call on the open? And let's quantify the open as the first hour.
I think the first hour is going to tell us what the market's going to do. I'd be really cautious about getting into anything before we find a level that's outside of all of the emotion. I think we have to let the emotion die down. I think you could get hurt one way or the other, because I could see this going either way. It gets worse, and I don't know if you saw in my blog post just the little picture. This can tick off a bunch of different countries. Portugal is in really bad shape right now. And does all this stuff start coming to the forefront? And do we tumble? Is this where we find our pullback, not more than a pullback? Is this where, we really do start seeing the market break down? Or do we start to shrug it off and say, no, Germany will come to their rescue, the IFM will come, somebody will come to their rescue.
So from a long-term perspective for a trader, Marion, and let's say somebody's not been trading 5, 7, 10 years, and all of this other stuff is going on, and we're obviously talking about it. It's a big story for everybody. Do you trade differently? I think that's really the lesson that
much more cautiously. On Friday, remember I said be careful about what you go home with, because you don't know what news is going to come out over the weekend. And I think that's why we see the pullback a lot of times. I actually thought we'd close red on Friday because everyone would be getting out of everything because of the uncertainty. I mean, I think there's a lot of uncertainty in the market, and that's why I think you have to be extra cautious when there's uncertainty, because all this Greek thing has been going on for 5 years. We shouldn't be this emotional about it, but we are when we're trading.
Yeah. Yep,
or the market shouldn't be, but it is. So, I mean, you can't say what it should or shouldn't, but the reality, it does get emotional.
Yeah, it is getting a little dragged out. I mean, I think I told you a story once when in 2011 I went for lunch and the Greek announcement was in 2011. So, it's 4 years later.
Right. So I just think that we're on emotional overload here. But that's why I'd rather be cautious, because that's just my opinion that this is being played up too much.
Yeah, I agree. I think the point that I want to make sure I get across to everybody is you'll still trade the stocks that you want to trade, but here's the big caveat that I would make sure that everybody is on top of. If and not that you should ever hesitate exiting a trade that isn't working out or for whatever. If you're watching your stocks and it seems like something different's going on, and let's assume you're watching the market enough during the day where you can tell, all right, what's going on here? Lighten up, get out, hit your numbers flawlessly. This is not an environment to think that if a position moves a little further away from you than you think that you're going to be able to trade out of it, because it can get ugly really, really quickly.
Right.
So, yeah, I guess I'm trying to parlay some experience out to everybody. You have to recognize that every market story is not the same, and this is a potentially really big one. So and I don't want to imply that anybody's not normally disciplined, but let's face it, all of us at some point in our careers been like, yeah, let me move my stop loss a little bit. I don't want to get stopped out. Everybody's done that. Anybody who ever tells you they've never done that, they're full of beeswax. Okay, this is not a market to do that. Not that you should ever do that, but we're human, we're emotional. This is a tape where if something unusual is going on, you want to hit your numbers flawlessly and either reduce size or exit it, because you don't want to get caught on the wrong side of an avalanche.
Right.
Anybody have any last minute stocks they'd like to go over? I think we got good ideas on both sides of the market. I think I'm leaning towards the stocks that have pulled back a little bit, specifically the cybersecurity stocks. I'm looking for Baba to sell short again, CCL on the long side, GMCR a little bit of a dud on Friday, but I still like it now that it broke that support level. Qualcomm has been a good short, but it's coming into support down there. Intel looks like it's got some room. What else? G Pro is off the list. Sina, actually looking for Sina on a pullback here as well.
And also watch the news, because if there is any type of even a hint of resolution, this market is going to rally back up.
Yep.
Because we're down on the Greek. I mean, China was down 3.3%. It has just totally faded away. It's down more than 20% since June 16th. So 2 weeks later, we're down 20% in the Shanghai.
Wow. Yeah, so that's going to be my final thought for going into the day. Keep an eye on that hourly chart, the hourly candle, to determine whether or not we've bottomed out and you got some intraday confirmation that we might be bouncing.
Right.
All right, everybody. I think we got some decent trades on both sides of the market. If we do find a bid, that Deere was pretty nice on the earnings.
Yeah.
DE.
It was.
Nike followed through. Look to see if UA gets some follow through. Also CMCSA as well. Starbucks still hovering around up near those highs. Lennar actually popped into my list today. DOW is still up at the top there as well. On the short side, KLAC, GLW, NTAP, and Kohl's. Looking for Kohl's to finally give us a trend day.
Yeah.
All right, Marion, let's make sure we try and grab a midday meeting this week as well.
Sounds good to me. Anybody have any questions? Wednesday, is that good for you, Pete? It's good for me.
Yep. All right, everybody, have an awesome day. If you have any
Have a great
questions,
day, guys.
please either send an email, but I'll be honest with you, more importantly, put them in the forum. They'll give us one place where everybody can help each other with questions as opposed to just an email going back and forth. Like, for example, I had a conversation with Mark this morning. I don't mind the emails at all. I actually encourage them, but I think it would be really cool if we could build up a database of questions for each other to help each other.
That's actually a great idea, I think.
Yep, I don't mind the emails at all. I don't want to imply that I don't, but I think that it's very important that we all learn from each other's experience.